our campaign, these are my papers right now. I printed them off my own printer in my own office. I have a handful of volunteers so far. Most of the district, you guys probably aren't in it. Jasper County is, and Sun City North is. It is the entire center of the state of South Carolina. It's called gerrymandering. If you don't know much about that, what it is they draw a district so that it has a particular demographic, in this case Democrats. And it is known by the state and everywhere that it's gerrymandered for a Democrat. I feel that everybody there is underrepresented. It's the 8th poorest district in the nation. The 8th poorest district in the nation, run by the 3rd most powerful Democrat in the nation, which is sad, to say the least. The best way to help us win, and I believe that it is possible. This is a crazy year, in case anybody's ever heard of Mr. Trump. He has created a wave, whether you love the man or hate the man, it doesn't matter. He has made people get up and get out and vote. So for that I am grateful. He's also depressed the Democratic vote, and that's good for me. I won't take any more time because I know these folks have some very important information to share with us about what's going on. If you want to, I'll be over here in the corner until the end of the meeting. Please come to me with donations. I'll take those small ones. And volunteers, I need volunteers. Still figuring out everything I'm going to do, but I have kind of a good vision for how to run this campaign. So I'll also be able to answer questions. I won't do that here now. And I'll be back. This won't be the only time that I come to visit. But now I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to the folks that you guys came to see.
Thank you all. Thank you so much, Laura, for being a hero and running against Mr. Wilson. I did want to give you an update. The last time we were together, we did take a collection because Tom Davis and Lee Bright were courageous enough to stand up and filibuster the, was it the gas tax? Gas tax. And we saw this picture of Tom sitting and looking like he was exhausted and falling asleep right on the stairs. So Linda Enzor and I came up with an idea to give them blankets that look like American flags, so if they ever have to do it again, they'll have something to kitty blanket with. So I'm going to pass this around. There's a picture of it. I'm trying to put it on our Facebook page, which I'm trying to use more, so go out and look at it if you can. And there's also a letter that she wrote. It's from us and from them, and Linda, it went over very well, right?
Very well.
Okay, thank you for doing that. The Low Country CIA had more retired people than I have. I'm not retired. So they went, and I'm so grateful that they did. So thank you, Linda. With that said, I'm going to call Lauren Martell up. Lauren Martell is, she was the person that I was first in contact with about this meeting. And she and her very brave client are trying to fight the refugee resettlement in the state of South Carolina. We have David Boris back again. He's an expert in ISIS and the Muslim Brotherhood. And Sherry, where are you? Suzanne. Suzanne, don't mind me. Nurse Suzanne. She's also going to be speaking to us. She has expertise in this area as well. So without further ado, Laura.
This is an obstacle course. Can everybody hear back there, or is there background music going on? Background sound. Can we turn this off? Which one can I turn on? Is this better? Can everybody hear in the back then? Because this is going to be important information. I am just going to introduce people first, and then I'll take an opportunity to say a few words. The first person that I want to introduce you to, I've known her for many years. I believe we originally met in Savannah. She's now living in Virginia. She has been called to this issue, and it has been on her heart for many, many years. I would consider her She's spoken to quite a few groups now, has written many articles, is probably close to writing a book. And when I find when people write their books, that's when they become experts, or known experts, or you can use them as experts in courtrooms. I'd like to introduce my friend Suzanne Shattuck to speak to you right now to introduce this issue.
Your services before the night's over. I want to say I am impressed with the amount of people here tonight. I think that speaks volumes for South Carolina. I love South Carolina. I used to live here, so part of my heart's here, and I know you guys are some of the most well-informed Americans there is, and I'm happy to be here sharing the podium with some experts. And so we'll get started, but I just thank Lauren for inviting me to speak on this issue. And I will say, I'm a nurse as well. I'm an ER nurse, and I consider myself a well-informed American on refugee resettlement and also the Islamic threat in our country. I am going to need that water bottle, just in case. And I have been writing some articles, like Lauren was saying. Is that better? Yeah. Okay, now you're hearing me. Okay. I have been writing some articles about those issues, but one article I wrote in particular was about heroin use, and I'm not here to speak about that, so just follow me. Heroin use is up 400%, and with that is also the overdose of heroin. And the drug that you give for an overdose of that is called Narcan. And if you've ever seen it used, it can be used on a patient that's barely breathing or not even breathing, and when you give it to them, it can jolt them up. It's amazing. I've seen a young girl come up off a stretcher swinging, fighting. And the way I see political correctness, and it has been injected like heroin over years into our culture, and it has made us, I think, listless, barely breathing, and sedated. And what I see, what Brian and Lauren are doing, is almost like they're giving truth out there to citizens to wake them up, just like Narcan, to wake the citizens up to this refugee resettlement program that has been going on for 35 years without transparency or congressional oversight. And so we're going to talk about that tonight. Bear with me, I'm always a little bit shaky at first because I am a newer speaker. But immigration, in my mind, is the single most critical issue facing our nation today. It is all-encompassing. It touches on national security, personal safety, the economy, culture, healthcare, education, and not only that, just as well as the very identity for our country as a nation, our identity. And refugee resettlement, thank you, is a major form of immigration in America. And I think many of us have serious reservations about this program, or you wouldn't be sitting here tonight. And that does not make you anti-immigrant, okay? It makes you pro-American. And I flat out reject anybody who wants to come in here and say, oh, you're a racist, you're an Islamophobe, you're a bigot, okay? Because I think everybody in here would be in 100% support behind an immigrant coming to our country for the right reasons and during the right economic climate, okay? But I will fight anybody who wants to come into this country for nefarious reasons. Those reasons would be to take advantage of our welfare system. That would be people who want to come in here and replace our Constitution with Sharia law. And obviously, Islamic terrorists that want to kill us, okay? So from a high altitude perspective, refugee resettlement is a big money operation. Big corporations are involved, the Chamber of Commerce, obviously our U.S. government. VOLAGs, which are volunteer agencies, they're supposedly, some of them, religiously affiliated. It is being used to move massive groups of people, and they're seen as commodities to be able to come in and fit the bill for cheap labor. And it also means liberal votes in the future because it'll be a pathway to citizenship for them. And there's no concern, all this is happening, by the way, when we have 93 million Americans that are out of work. And so we're bringing in 100, right now I think the cap is 85,000 for the refugee resettlement. Obama wants to increase that to 100,000. And then you have the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, would like to see that 480,000 over the next several years. And that's in Western countries. He wants us to take those. That number is astounding to me. And how many of you know about refugee resettlement, know how it works? Okay, I'm going to give a quick Cliff Notes version, okay? Refugee Resettlement Act of 1980 was crafted by Jimmy Carter, Ted Kennedy, and Joe Biden. Enough said, okay? Then, until the late 1990s, we were choosing our own refugees. After that, we abdicated that responsibility to the United Nations. So the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees now refers 95% of our refugees. He refers those to the Assistant Secretary of State for Population, Refugees, and Migration, Ann Richards, whom Lauren knows, I think Brian knows. She accepts them, and then they're put through a vetting process. Department of Homeland Security, Department of State vets them. It was touted by Obama, hey, we're taking 18 to 24 months to vet these people. I believe it was last month, Leo Homan, maybe you can correct me, he just said, hey, let's take that to 3 months. We can do it in 3 months. Because they're so good at it. And they probably are good at their job, but it's the other side that we're worried about. Department of Health and Human Services screens them. If they have TB or HIV, no problem, they're coming in. They are flown to refugee processing centers, and then they are linked up with one of 9 volunteer agencies. Okay, under those 9 volunteer agencies are 350 subcontractors. And then they work in over 190 cities now, I think, throughout the country to settle refugees without any of your, whether you say okay or not, it doesn't matter. By the way, the VOLAGs are funded by your tax dollars. Once the refugees have set foot in America here, 30 days, they are eligible for all federal, state, local welfare programs. If they're over 65, they are also eligible for Social Security benefits. Yeah, that one gets you. All right, the subcontractor stays around about 3 to 6 months, and then once their time's up, they're gone. If the refugee has a job, that's great. If not, then the welfare of that refugee falls to you, the local taxpayer, to take care of them. Real quick, I know Lutheran Services is named in Brian's lawsuit, but the IRC, International Rescue Committee, is very active in my town. I pulled this off their website. This is what newly arrived refugees receive. Real quick, I won't name everything. A furnished home, help with rent, health care, nutritious, affordable food, English language classes, education for the children, social services, etc. And health care, by the way, I've seen them, I've treated them. And they're getting, it's not just regular, family practice, it's procedural stuff that's kind of elective. So let me move on from there. In the next few minutes, I just want to focus on especially the national security and personal safety issues of refugee resettlement. But first, I want to say our country seems to be welcoming some and ignoring others. The definition of a refugee, someone who is unable or unwilling to return to their country of origin, owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, certain social groups, or political opinion. And what I look at is the UNHCR, the United Nations High Commissioner, is he even vetting our refugees to see if they're a true refugee? If most of the true refugees want to go back to their home country because it's their culture, especially the Middle East and coming out of Syria, they can be cared for in place for 1/12 the cost of bringing them here and resettling them here. That's not even taking into account the decades of welfare that we have to pay. And what I find particularly disturbing is the Christians. They are grossly underrepresented. Of the millions that are flowing out of Syria, the millions that are registered in the UN camps in the bordering countries, 1% are Christians. Okay? Syrians' Christian population is 10%. Many of those refugees that are Christian do not even want to go into the UN camps because of the strict Islamic environment that characterizes them. And that was reported by a British nonprofit organization that worked in those camps. Instead, we're bringing migrants here who are in a race for a higher standard of living. And you've probably seen videos on Facebook going through where they've interviewed some of these people who have come through Greece. They're trying to get to Germany. And they're like, look, if I can't get to Germany, I'm going back to my home country. And I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like a true refugee if you're not afraid to go back to your country. Most of the refugees that we're seeing coming into Europe, and there's no reason that we are to expect a different outcome than what's going on in Europe. Are you guys watching what's going on over there? 66 to 77% are military-aged males that are coming over there. Many of them are Muslim, obviously. Okay, they're following the Hijra, which is a command from Muhammad to go populate foreign lands, to spread your seed, take wives. Eventually, you will dominate politically that region and that country. That paves the way for the caliphate. Whose goal is the caliphate? I mean, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Muslim Brotherhood that is here and very active in our country. They just had Muslim Capital Day about 3 weeks ago. They are very active in Washington. It's also the same goal of Al-Nusra and Boko Haram and on and on. So not surprising, with the increase in Muslim males is an increase in sexual assaults. That is widespread in Europe. It's starting here in America. It's been very underreported. And I'm just in England, Sweden, France, Norway, Austria, all increasing incidents of sexual assaults. Not only rapes of women, boys and girls. Okay, here's a few stats. I did an article on this. In Rotherham, England, there were 1,400 young children were assaulted and raped over a period of 16 years by a Pakistani immigrant group. They didn't say anything, okay? I don't want to be an Islamophobe. You know, I'm not going to say anything. And plus, it's negative publicity, obviously, for that country. Chief of police in Vienna, Austria, is telling the women, do not go out after dark unsupervised. Okay, that's Austria. Let that sink in, okay? Sweden is now the rape capital of the world. Muslims make up 6% of that population. They're responsible for 77% of the reported rapes. How can anybody think bringing these people to our country is going to make our women and children safer? Okay, they have grown up in a way that has taught them women don't have rights. Okay, and also there's no negative repercussions for them, you know, sexually assaulting somebody. Finally, and most importantly, there's an undeniable nexus between immigration and terrorism. To quote the 9/11 Commission, you know, they did their report on the national security failures and our border security failures that led to 9/11. For terrorists, travel documents are as important as weapons. Terrorists must travel clandestinely to meet, train, plan, case targets, and then gain access for attack. And to them, international travel presents a danger to them because they must surface to pass through regulated channels when they have to present themselves to border security, or they have to circumvent those inspection points. What does refugee resettlement do? I mean, it gives them a free, protected ticket right into our home, right into the middle of our country, into the heart of our country. And not only that, but it gives them all the goodies that I read about, and then it gives them bona fide paperwork. They have a bona fide, you know, their identity is good, so that now they can go out and create other identities. Of the 19 9/11 hijackers, 364 aliases. That's the aliases they used. So we're giving these people, you know, like I say, it's crazy. It boggles the mind. And then we hear about the homegrown terrorists, but a lot of our terrorist attacks have happened from immigrants and children of immigrants. Fazal Jasad, he was the Times Square bomber. He was 20 when he attempted to carry out his attack, and he immigrated here when he was 20. The Boston bombers, the Sarnevs, they were immigrants. Najibullah Zazi planned to grow up the New York subway. Okay, he immigrated here from Pakistan. All the 9/11 hijackers were given visas by our State Department. And if ISIS has definitely seized assets in Syria this last year, they now are making fake Syrian passports. They have access to government buildings with biographical data, fingerprint information of Syrian citizens. So this is, obviously, they're going to use that for identity theft. In Europe now, it is reported 5,000 ISIS operatives are in Europe. And undoubtedly, they got there mostly by embedding themselves in that refugee population. Our top national security officer, James Comey, and at the time, his assistant, Michael Steinbeck of Counterterrorism Division, have testified the Syrian refugees cannot be vetted, period. Okay, they said this, realize when they said this, they were going in 180 degrees opposition to what the President of the United States was saying. Those men are brave, and we need to thank them that they stood up for truth. Basically what they're saying is you cannot expect a perfect result from a failed vetting process. Ladies and gentlemen, so we are bringing in refugees from the hotbed of Islamic terrorism, and we're basically vetting them through an interview. And that does not leave me with a warm and fuzzy. I'll get with you, I'm almost done.
Okay.
All this simply means, I've said all this to say, and I can't even believe I'm up here having to defend my position. Okay, all of this is to say the refugee resettlement program has to be stopped. There is no turning back. When you look at Germany, they're gone. There's no turning back when you admit that many, especially Sunni Muslims into your country. So I want to put a visual in your mind in closing. Don't kick me out, I'm almost done. Okay. Who in this room would not run into a burning building if your family is inside? Okay, I know you're going to run in, you're going to see people to your left and to your right that you would want to save. You are laser focused on your family because it's your duty to protect your family. Okay, that is what Brian Bilbrough is doing, and he's attempting to do for you, for your state and the country, because this is waking up the country. Alrighty? When you have refugee resettlement, it's the same when I look at that visual, it's the same. Our leadership has taken an oath to protect from enemies, both foreign and domestic, and they are failing miserably in this refugee resettlement by allowing this to continue. Not only that, you have the volunteer agencies who are walking away, they're settling these refugees, walking away without any accountability whatsoever for what these refugees may do in the future, be it a crime or a terrorist attack. And then they also undoubtedly are going to leave the local taxpayer with the bill. And I'm not afraid. You can think I'm an alarmist about this, but I think it is time to mainline some Narcan to open the eyes and wake up America, because we better wake up swinging like that girl on the stretcher, because we are in the battle for the survival of Western civilization. I truly believe that. And nothing, no threat out there I have seen is moving at the feverish pace to bring this country down as immigration, and more specifically, a refugee resettlement program that looks to bring 100,000 mostly Muslims, Sunni Muslims, into our country, Sharia compliant Muslims. And I will say that you cannot make national security decisions based on emotion. We can't look at the little boy washed up on the beach and make a decision about our national security and who we admit into this country. It needs to be based on fact, and it is a fact. Sharia compliant Muslims will never assimilate into Western culture. What I get emotional about is we have a president and most of our elected officials that don't seem to give a damn about Americans' security or personal safety or their livelihoods. So let's band together, get behind Brian and Lauren, and because they're on the front lines for our freedom, and it is time that we take this and stand with them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suzanne. And Suzanne, all of us will stay a little bit afterwards, and we'll have a Q&A afterwards. It's my pleasure to next introduce to you a very honorable and courageous man who I've known for a few years. He is a husband, a father, a son, a job creator, a strong American citizen, and he's a long-standing South Carolinian, Brian Bilbrough.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I just kind of share with you how this kind of all transpired. About a year ago, I started really just kind of noticing that something's going on in the world, and this Islamic Muslim situation was getting pretty scary around the world. So I started really doing a lot of research and started noticing my friend Lauren was very active and probably the most knowledgeable person in our state on this topic, and was having big events around the state where people in Spartanburg were coming out. And long story short, we just connected on the median Facebook. It does have some good qualities to it. And she asked me to come out and speak at the Senate subcommittee, which was about 4 months ago. And we spoke in front of 4 senators here, and about 26 citizens spoke out very clearly against what's going on. And afterwards, Senator Lee Bright, what a respectable, honorable man he is. He was very receptive to what we were doing, but there was one senator there from Manning, South Carolina, that covers that Florence area of our state. Pretty easy to find out who that is. What a, just an, just evil. Just evil. You could see it in his eyes. And he told Lauren after it was over, he goes, they're coming, whether you like it or not. And there's nothing really you can do about it. Times are changing. It's more dangerous. Deal with it. I said, what? And I've got a 7-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old daughter. And, you know, this is right around the time when you had the New Year's Eve, Germany, you know, 100+ ladies get gang raped things. So all this is, I'm going, man, I really don't want that to come to America and have my daughters have to deal with that. And I said, you know, Lauren, I said, they're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything. I said, really, she was really the only way that something's going to get done is if a judge lays a hammer down, a gavel down, and makes a decision. And she goes, we have a big case here, and we can do it. And I said, well, let me talk about it with my wife and see if this is something I want to do. I basically counseled with, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. I counseled with 2 people. One is a dear friend of mine. We roomed together for 2 years in college. He's the former lieutenant governor of our state and kind of knows that whole world up there. And I said, what do you think about me doing this? He said, well, he goes, do you have anything to gain? I said, you like money? He said, yeah. I said, no money here. He goes, well, how about, are you running for a political office? I said, no desire to run for political office either. He goes, Brian, you've got a very wonderful life in Chapin, South Carolina. You go out on your pontoon boat, you go to all Gamecock sporting events, you raise your family, you build your business, you're 46 years old. He goes, why would you want to take on this? And I was like, man, you got a good point. Because it sounds like a big headache. Then I called my dad. And my dad is a retired attorney down in Charleston. And he said, yep, he goes, Andre's right, Brian. He goes, but here's what I'll tell you. He goes, you only get so many times in life where you can truly stand up for something that you believe in and have a chance to make a difference. He goes, so I'm going to tell you to do it and to put it in God's hands and see where he takes this. So obviously I made that decision. We talk about this gentleman, the Muslim Brotherhood, and when I came out of filing our stack of court papers, there were a group of gentlemen there from a group called Oath Keepers. What a wonderful organization they are. But they offered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week protection for me and my family. My wife's had, dreams of bombs being put under our car and all kinds of stuff. Last night we witnessed, and we were in Charleston, South Carolina, speaking to the GOP executive meeting there. So they're electing, who's going to go up to the conference and all this kind of stuff. So it's a pretty, heavyweight GOP Republicans, and we're done. And one guy behind us stands up, an immigration attorney who's on the board, and there's 80 people out there just like there is here tonight. He goes, that's a bunch of lies, and they're this, and that's a bunch of, I'm used to work for George Bush, and I was in Homeland Security, and I'm dead serious. A lady stood up in the front row, 80 years old. She told me her age, that's why I'm telling you her age, 80 years old. And she told him to shut up and sit down. Unbelievable. Because I'm sitting here being attacked for what we're doing, and you heard, Suzanne's got the facts. And when she said that to him, the entire room erupted with applause. And everybody basically told that guy to get out if you don't like it. So it was just wonderful to see somebody try to come against us, and the masses, though, said, no, we're not. Because that's what I told them last night. I said, me and Lauren, okay, we're going up against this, right? Those people you've heard about, the DSS, the governor, the two big nonprofits, they've hired 3 of the largest law firms in this state. It's not like we're going up against tiddlywinks here. This is 3 of the biggest law firms in our state coming against us. One of the big law firms, the Suggs firm out of Columbia, they petitioned to bring in a group called the Southern Poverty Law Center. Last week, the judge approved it. We all know who they're funded by. Mr. Soros, he's got a few dollars. So to say we're going up against the evil is an understatement, okay? Why? Why are they bringing 3 of the biggest law firms? Southern Poverty Law Center. Why are they bringing all that? To silence us. Because they do not want the truth and the facts to come out to you. Because when you really understand the facts and the truth about what's going on here and behind the scenes and all the money being made and all this kind of stuff and bringing in all the free people to vote the way, guys, it's evil at the highest level. And through discovery, that's how we're going to expose them, through our legal system. So they're doing every slick lawyer and trick in the world. And I'm sorry to any lawyers out there, I'm not calling you slick. I'm just saying there's some slick lawyering tricks. Like, if you've got to have your answer on this day, by this day, they file it on that day at the last hour. Everything is designed to delay, so hopefully this will go away, right? So why am I out here tonight in Bluffton, South Carolina, which Lauren promised me we were going to go eat at my favorite barbecue place down here, which every time I come here, I love that place. What's the name of that place? Jim and Nick's. Man, I love that place. Brisket's fantastic there. So that's where I'm going to be after this. So I would be tonight, I would be home snuggled on the couch with my family and my 9-week-old golden retriever puppy watching The Voice. That's what I'd be doing, okay? But I'm not, because I've decided, you know what? I'm gonna do everything I can so I don't have to look in the mirror 20 years from now and have regret, okay? So what are they doing right now? They are going to bring in these people, okay, the Islamic Muslim refugees, and they're gonna create a little pocket. First little pocket's up there in Spartanburg. The second main pocket they've got is McBee. I don't even know where McBee is. They find the most country location you can find and stick them there. It's like on the left of Sherrod, but close to the North Carolina border, where basically there's nothing but woods. And like Suzanne said, they give them trailers, they give them funding, every single thing. These aren't the best of the best. These are the ones that have no education, have no skills, can't speak the language, have no desire to assimilate, and you, sir, if you are a part of it, can't mention the word God or Jesus Christ to them. Okay? So all they're here to do, and they get all the social benefits, all of them, plus more. And after 8 months, the federal government's gone. And it's all on us. So that's what our lawsuit's about. Our lawsuit is to protect, the reasoning behind my lawsuit is to protect, number one, my children. And if I protect my children, that means I'm protecting your children and grandchildren. So together we're protecting our children, okay? And then number two, it is to protect our tax dollars. Do we not have more things we could do with our tax money, our South Carolina state tax money, than to just have these people bleed off of us? Not for 2 years, for decades. And then once they're here, and they breed at 8 to R2, 8 babies for every couple, so they're multiplying. And then they use chain migration. Anybody know what that is? Well, once they're here, they just start ring every cousin and nephew they can have, they bring them in, and they start growing. And it's already happened in Europe. It's happened. Okay. So those little Islamic Muslim ghettos, because that's what they are, right? They turn into eventually no-go zones. It's already happening all over Europe. And then the no-go zones is where they breed terrorists. Islamophobe, whatever, I don't really care what you call me. I really don't. But that is what I would like to say, let's don't let that happen here. Can we just stop it? Because me and Lauren, we can't do it together. It's going to take a bunch of people to say, you know what? Enough is enough. This is ridiculous. How can we allow this to happen? It takes you guys have to pick your phone up and actually call somebody, call your representatives and say, I am not for this. I'm watching you. I'm watching how you vote. And we need to stop this. And there's a reason why 17 other states and their governors said, no way. Don't even think about it. State of Tennessee says, you know, we'll take it one step further. We're going to sue the federal government. But our state, we'll just lay down, let them come in, let them create their little pockets. They bring in about 50, and they make sure they're really getting good into the community. Then they start bringing in the busloads. And they put them in the little country areas where we can't see them. Then all of a sudden you have these pockets of thousands and thousands. And I just hope we can stop it. It's going to take all of us together to do it. And, you know, I've done pretty much everything I can do. I mean, except to come and just try to bring awareness and hope that somebody will get, you know,